Hey, what's up, people? So this video, I'm going to show everybody with our F15s how to remove the brake caliper brake pads and the brake cable. And all you need is just the Allen key set. Literally, no tools, no other tools, no pliers needed. Just the Allen keys for the bolts, and that's all you do. It's an easy process to remove the whole entire thing. And in this video, I'm going to precisely show everybody in detail how to get started. So as you can see on the caliper, we got bolts on both sides. We got the on top of the caliper, the left and the right. So both bolts are going to use the same size Allen key, which is about a 5mm. Also for the side of the brake caliper, which is the bolt that's holding the brake cable, same Allen key size for that. And there's going to be one more, which is a fourth bolt in the middle that's holding the brake pads. So under these two right here that I'm pointing at, under the brake caliper, there's going to be two washer nuts that's going to be holding the bolt that's on top. And the bolt also includes itself an additional washer that's actually on the top where the bolt is. So you have a total of 3 washer nuts on both sides on both bolts. Let's get started. So take the 5mm Allen key set. You can start off any bolt that you want. But I preferably, yeah, this is 5mm. You can see on the camera. Alright, perfect. So you can start off with any bolt that you want, but I preferably recommend starting off with the first top two on top of the brake caliper. So you go ahead and enter the bolt in, or into the Allen key size, and you turn counterclockwise. Give it a good few turns, and then once you do that, you can see the bolt is, loosening up, and it's going to be pulled upwards. So if you remember what I said earlier, that the bolt already has an additional washer nut that's going to be on top, and then it has 2 additional ones on the bottom of the brake caliper. So let's go ahead and remove that, as you can see. So once you remove the first bolt that's on top, place it down somewhere where you can, be organized. Do the same thing to the other side, but since mine's is different, I had to replace the bolt due to following a wrong tutorial from a famous YouTuber on his brake caliper, since he had a different scooter, not from FOHOLO. So just keep that in mind. So I just properly removed that left bolt with the washers that are under it. Do the same thing for both sides. You can easily lift off the brake caliper. So that bolt right there that I just pointed at, 5mm Allen key size. But first, before we do that, make sure you grab the bolts or the washers that are under the caliper. As you heard me mention earlier, get the small one right here, large one right there. Small goes on top. Keep it in that same order when you put it back in place. Put it right there under the caliper. Alright, so put it together with that bolt and do the same thing for the other bolt. Put it together and separate it. So now you're going to have to grab the caliper, and that bolt right there has like a compressor washer, if I'm saying it correctly. That's actually grabbing the so you go ahead and take the Allen key right there and put it in, but that part right there actually has a part that compresses the brake cable, so that way when you apply the brake levers, it'll actually compress the cable and it gives you that stopping power. So we'll jump to that in a quick moment. So we're going to go ahead and use the 5mm Allen key, remove this third bolt. So we have a total of 4 bolts that we have to remove. The fourth one is a smaller, skinnier bolt, which is holding the brake pads. So we'll get to that next. So just keep turning a few times, and then once you see that, boom, that part that's right on top of this bolt, it compresses the brake cable, as I mentioned a second ago. And that's the brake cable right here. Next, we're going to go ahead and remove the caliper, slide it off. It's good to give it a clean here and there. Go ahead and pull, twist, and tuggle until it comes out. There we go. So the brake caliper is actually officially removed, but we're not done yet. So as you can see, We got one more bolt right there. It's a skinnier size, so we're going to place the Allen key, proper size Allen key set in there. It might be the first or the third, or it might be actually the second or third skinniest Allen key on the Allen key set. I'm not quite sure what the number is, but it should be there. Just try to find the right one. And once you do, just put it inside. Turn it counterclockwise. You don't have to turn a few times, so just keep that in mind. So this should be the right size. So we're going to put it in, turn it counterclockwise. Just have some patience here. It's going to be quite a few turns. And that's a good thing because it signals that the bolt is actually tight enough to keep the brake pads in place rather than feeling loose. So once you see that, the bolt is becoming more looser and looser. So once you keep turning, should be good. So you'll see it gradually start to slide out. And then once you do, you just pull it out with the Allen key or your hand or your hands, and then you should be good. Boom. All right. So now all bolts are officially removed. And what we're going to do is take our finger, push it from the bottom so we can grab it from the top. So like a sandwich. And then once we do that, if you want to if you want to replace your brake pads, that's how you do it. But it's good to clean off the brake caliper as well, by the way. Remove any dust or debris. Same thing with the brake cable. So this right here, that's the clip holding the brake pads. So if you want to replace the brake pads, all you do is just follow the path right there with the clip. The hole is going to be right there like a hanger. So make sure this is the back, this is the front. Make sure you put it like that when you're replacing it. Easy as 1, 2, 3. Same thing for the other side or the other brake pad. Put it together with that clip. Make sure the holes are matching in place like a sandwich, and then boom. Once you see everything is good, grab the caliper and put it back from the top. Most people they assume you put it back from the bottom. I don't think that's the right way because it may not fit, but you always do from the top just to be on the safe side. If it could go on the bottom, then wow. But the best part is going to the top because that hook is going to be able to connect in place. If the brake clip or the brake pads and the clip fall apart, just no worries. Just put it back together again and then follow this process. Push it down until that clip on the left side right there where my thumb was is in place on that wall, and make sure the holes are matching. Make sure there's a good lineup. That way when you put the bolt back inside, you know the bolt can easily squeeze through the hole in that lineup. So we're going to go ahead and repeat the process. Same process as before. All bolts that you remove, put it back in place again. Same goes for the brake cable. And then try to push up if you don't see it lining. Just move up and down on the brake pads, and then take the brake cable. Oh, I'm sorry, take the Allen keys and just tighten it clockwise back in place. Make sure it's good and nice and tight. And then you're good with that part. So just go ahead and tighten it up. And you can see that too. The bolt will actually stick out just a little tiny bit. Not barely, because you need that backspace. So you can see it going in more and more. And then you'll see the turn starting to get more tight, which indicates that it's successfully in. It's all secured, so there's no need to be tightening more. And that's it. Now we jump to the next part. Make sure everything's good. So this part, you see that? When the more it's up, the more it's raised up, the more the brake pads squeeze on. And then inside the middle where that spacing is, that's where the brake disc is. Alright guys, so now we're coming to the end of this part right here. After we put the brake pads in, make sure we do this first by putting the brake cable back on the caliper before you put it on the disc brake. So just go ahead and wiggle this part in, put the brake cable inside the caliper on this portion of the part, and then go ahead and make sure it's tight inside that. Should be good. And then don't forget the washers on both sides. Remember, skinny on top, thick on the bottom, and then put them in place right there. Just leave it on top. You should see two openings right there above this fork section of the caliper, and put both sides. Since I only have one, I'm going to keep it like this due to following wrong instructions on the left side of the caliper from a YouTuber, like I said. So that's going to be different, but normally guys, apply the same for both. Put both washers on both sides on top of the fork on this section right here on the caliper, or that gives access to keep the caliper in place. So put those two right there, and then put the bolt in. Do this after you put the brake cable inside the caliper first. And then once you do that, make sure prior to putting the bolts back in place, make sure there's even spacing on the brake disc. And if you have to wiggle it, just wiggle it. Stand in front of it, stand above it, so that way you can see the brake disc actually between the brake pads. So you'll know by your judgment once you put the brake caliper on top of the brake disc. And once you do that, go ahead and put the bolt back in place. Start off with one or the other. Start off with these two bolts that's on the top first before you get to the brake cable. And go ahead and use your 5mm Allen key. Turn it clockwise until it's tight. And like I said, since I'm using a different bolt that I had to get as a replacement, this one should be easy for me. But normally you apply the same method just like you did with the first bolt with the washers. So do the same thing to the other side. And then now you can see here, this is the top of the caliper, and I'm doing the rear wheel. So you see that? The brake disc is right in between, or the brake disc is right in between the brake pads. So make sure there's enough spacing. And this part right here, this is going to be the final last step. The brake cable, adjusting it, and putting in the last bolt and the little compressor that's on top. So this is the brake cable right there. When you're adjusting it, which by the way guys, the caliper is successfully on, the brake cable, you're going to have to pull that down as you insert the bolt and tighten the bolt. So first you're going to have to keep the cable and pull it down and hold it down tight and keep it there until the bolt is actually right here, until the bolt is actually in place. So first you put the bolt in, of course, and that little compressor, you're going to have to keep it straight. You'll see like a little bit of a lining where you keep the brake cable laying in place on top of this part as you're tightening the bolt. So make sure you use one hand to actually lock down the brake cable, and you keep it in place. Like I said, you hold it in place as you're pulling down while you're tightening the bolt, and then that's how you do it. And as you're tightening, I'm going to show you guys when you're pulling up this part, make sure it's not all the way up, because if you go back to the beginning of this video where I mentioned how the brake pad squeezed, the more this part of the caliper is raised up, you're not going to want to have it raised up too much. So as you're raising it up, look over on top of the caliper where the brake pads are and make sure, as you're raising it slowly, make sure it's not closing in too tight on the brake disc. And if it is, just loosen it or pull it down a little bit, just very little, because you're going to have that tightness in order to get that nice firmness from the brake cables above the brake lever. So you can see here, as we're tightening and raising it slowly, I'm holding down on the brake cable. I'm holding it down because when it's held down, that's what helps gives that stopping power once the bolt is tightened, and once that compressor is actually leaning and tightens on the brake cable. So just a few more turns here, and we're almost done. So we're gonna have to give it a go. Sometimes if you hear hissing sounds, it could be because the brake caliper is a little slanted on the brake disc. So what you could do is you could loosen up the bolts on one or both sides, preferably both sides, on top of the caliper where my finger is right there, on the left and right side, and then you could just move up the caliper, wiggle it a little bit, make sure it's straight, make sure there's a straight lining, not no leans or twists, because that can be one factor of why you hear rattling or twist or hissing sounds from the brake discs as you accelerate or if you move the wheel. And the second factor is this right here. So you see how I'm raising it up or raising it a little down more? That right there, the brake pads are closing on the brake disc, which gives that hissing sound. So to eliminate that, easy. This part right here on the caliper, loosen that bolt, keep your finger on top of that compressor, because the more you tighten it, the more it goes to the right. So you want to keep that as close as possible, evenly to the left, where it compresses down on the brake cable itself. But if it's a little bit off, it's perfectly fine. But it's best to hold your finger there as you're doing it. And once it's tight in place, give it a go and see if there's any hissing. But that's how you do it, guys. That's how you put back everything. That's how you adjust the brake cable, brake caliper to remove it, and removing the brake pads and replacing the brake pads. I forgot to mention, guys, make sure you have a stool to have the scooter on, because it helps with support, it helps with your back, it helps with your knees, and it gives you more leverage and elevation to work on the scooter. So that's a plus right there. So like I said, this is the rear wheel I'm working on. The same applies to the front wheel. Same exact method, same exact way. So if you follow this video in this tutorial, it'll help you with the front wheel. So as you can see, I'm turning the wheel left and right, and you might hear some sounds. It's because the caliper may be either slanted sideways, or maybe needs to be raised a little higher or a little lower by tightening the bolt. So normally that's not a factor. The main thing could be this part right here. It could be too much close or too raised up too high when you adjust the brake cable. And like I said, when that's too high, the brake pads actually squeeze on the brake disc. So that could be a factor of why you hear that rattling or hissing sound. So sometimes it's good to loosen the bolt on top of the brake cable of the caliper and maybe wiggle it left and right or up and down. Check for here with the brake levers. If it feels squishy, that's not good. Case in point, like that. When it's like this, that's not good because it's too loose. So you want to have more support, more tightness, where you have a lot of finger space. And that's how you do it. So we're going to start off with this part. Of course, you have to raise it up a little more to get that nice feeling of loosening the bolt, or in other words, to make it easier for yourself to loosen the bolt. And this is the first option I recommend doing in case you hear rattling or hissing sounds coming from the disc brake. So the disc brake is actually fine. It's the way you have the caliper and the way you have this part on the brake cable, the way you have it tightened. If it's too high up or too raised up, then that's going to contribute to hissing and rattling sounds. So just loosen the bolt, Bring it down a little bit by bit. Repeat the process if you still hear rattling sounds. The more lower it is, the more better it sounds. So let's go ahead and give it a try and see if you hear the sounds again. Yeah, y'all. So it's just a simple solution to this. The handle on the brake caliper itself was actually too tight or raised up high, so that contributed to the brake pads rubbing against the brake disc. So, an example: pretend this Allen key is the brake pad, the brake disc, and my fingers are the brake pads. So, as you can see, the more higher it is, the more it closes in on the brake disc. The lower it is, the looser the brake pads become, and then when you need to use the brake levers, it'll instantly clap on onto the brake disc properly without having that hissing sound when you're accelerating. So just a little adjustment with that. Raise it down just a little lower, and then don't forget to hold down the brake cable so that way you can still keep it tight when you need to um, use the brake levers and have that good stopping power. So overall, it's an easy solution. Save yourself from going to a bike shop. This is a 1, 2, 3 process. Watch this video as many times as you want, especially this part, and y'all should be good with this thing. Yeah, so like I said earlier, if you stand over the brake caliper, you can see once the side handle on the brake caliper is raised, the brake pads actually close up very tight against the brake disc, which contributes to that hissing sound when you accelerate. So once the thing is lowered down, you can see there's much space between the brake disc and the brake pads. Easy solution. All you need to do is just follow the instructions just a few moments ago, and everything should be all right. No hissing sounds and nothing like that. No rattling sounds. Rattling is usually because of the calipers sometimes. So you could just wiggle it after loosening the two bolts that's above the caliper. And once you find that spot, try to accelerate slowly while you're holding the caliper in air, basically. And then once you find that sweet spot, when the rattling's disappeared, then you hold it, stop accelerating, you hold that caliper the way it is, and then tighten one bolt at a time from the left or right. All right, y'all. So let's go ahead and turn up the volume a little bit. Let's listen to the wheels and see if that hissing sound has completely went away. Awesome. No more hissing sound, no rattling sounds. If you guys follow this tutorial, you'll be perfect, just like this. You'll have the same exact results and save yourself from going to a bike shop. Easy as 1, 2, 3. And one more thing, guys, make sure both motors run and stop at the same time, because after adjusting the brake cables, sometimes one stops faster than the other. If that's the case, just make sure both brake cables are adjusted equally. All right, y'all, so that concludes this video. I appreciate y'all for staying for a half hour, and us guys and girls out there can take this video with us in case we need it. And until then, ride safe, be seen, and I'll see y'all on the next run.